to the High Queen podcast.
Prepare to embark on a journey through books you'll fall in love with, as well as the leading ladies who inspire our own stories.
Our friendship blossomed from pageantry to page turners, sparking a desire to show other women that they too can be their own main character.
I'm Miranda.
And I'm Autumn.
And together we'll lead you through books of all genres, from epic fantasy series, romance, all levels of spice, even to autobiographies of real life heroines.
And we're some passionate bitches, so remember this podcast is rated R and prepare your ears. It's time to celebrate the heroines who redefine what it means to be brave and bold.
So grab your books, beverage, and bestie and crack open that book to page 513. Let's do a little check-in with each other before we dive into this crazy little book.
Yes. Okay. So my update for one, we're recording this. It is Mother's Day weekend. And tomorrow I'm going to St. Augustine, Florida. Very excited. It's unfortunately looks like it's going to be very rainy, but we're still going to have a nice time. My husband is so sweet, and every Mother's Day he plans like a mini trip. So something we can drive just a couple hours to, probably no more than 4 hours. And this year we're going to St. Augustine, so it'll be a nice little weekend getaway.
Absolutely. Isn't that where you have that like super cute picture where you're like on a swing and there's like the ocean? I think you're on a swing, you're sitting on the beach. I can picture this photo of you. Your hair's in like buns. It was before you had Nora.
Oh, that is in Key West.
Okay.
Yes.
But you know what picture I'm talking about, right?
I do. It was a very Instagrammable moment.
It was super cute.
That was in Key West. No, I've actually only been to St. Augustine one time, and it was for a wedding, so I didn't really see anything.
Fair.
So this will be a very fun new trip. It's got like the Fountain of Youth in it, and one of the first city that was first place that was settled in America by the Spanish. So it's got a very Spanish influence vibe there. It's really pretty.
Sounds
So
lovely.
excited. And they have a store called the Pickle Factory.
The pickle factory. Okay, well, report back, please. Let us
And
know.
apparently they have a capybara cafe.
I'm gonna need all the pictures.
And a pirate museum.
Can we road trip sometime?
Everything I keep saying keeps getting like crazier.
Progressively crazier. There's a Fountain of Youth. There's a capybara cafe, a pirate museum, pickle. There's a lot happening. There's a lot happening.
I'm excited for this weekend. Rain or shine, there's plenty to do. We'll have a good time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That sounds fabulous. You're a wonderful mama. You deserve a wonderful weekend.
Thanks.
Oh, I love that for you. I'm getting over a cold, nasty little cold. It has been kicking my little booty, and in the thick of finals too, which is unfortunate. You know, I like the last probably month and a half, I feel like it's just always been something, unfortunately, but that's okay. Hopefully we're over it. I had my last class last night. I've got a final exam next week, a paper due next week that I haven't started, but that's okay. We're gonna get it done. Yeah, we're living. It's good.
Wow.
It's all good.
You know what I love is that both of us are like so in the trenches of our personal lives, and yet
here we are.
We find time to read this book and talk about it.
Of course we do. Y'all, this is the outlet. This is the hobby. This is what gives us joy, because we're going to talk about finding joy in these chapters.
Yes. Okay, so initial impressions. First off, I really love the court dynamics of this section. I love the romance, the growth with a capital G. Okay, and then top it all off, some suspense.
Yeah. Talk about a motherfucking
it.
cliffhanger. We're just dropping that right there at the end.
I know. I kind of did that because I told you to stop reading there. And I'm like, cliffhanger.
Cut it off. No, it was perfect. It was perfect. I mean, it was clearly written that way too, right? We're on to the last section of this book.
I know.
But I was reading. I know. Last episode coming up. I was
Mm-hmm.
reading though, and I was like, wow, we're getting mighty close to the end of this book. How much is going to be left? Oh, there's a whole other section. Holy crap. I got to thinking in these chapters too, even more than past ones, just how much Nesta has a choice with like
Mm-hmm.
everything that's happening around her deep within herself. It's this decision of, do I choose the good? Do I find the joy? Or do I stay in this place and do I choose the evil? Which
Mm-hmm.
which version of the world do I allow myself to be in? Especially when Lanthus, right? When he
Mm-hmm.
paints her this pretty picture of a world where she can be on the throne. But what kind of world will that be?
Yeah.
And it's very evident what kind of world she wants it to be. And so I love to see that continued capital G growth. Like you said, actually, it's all bold, it's all caps. We
All
are
caps.
growing.
Growth. It's growth.
Just shouting it. Grow, Nesta,
Uh,
grow.
oh man. Well, let's
Need of
get
my
into what
plants.
happened. Yeah. Okay,
Yes.
so Nesta has finally had a major breakthrough and a revelation about how she can begin a new part of her healing and forgiveness journey. Up to this point, it's very much felt like self discovery and reflection, but now we're beginning to see the pieces of her we love so much emerge in an even better way. Yes, we are still at the lake when we come back, and Nesta and Cassian not only reveal a deep and vulnerable truth to each other, but also they like go deep, winky face. Now we get a flashback to the events at the lake as Gwyn and Emerie are pulling out all those juicy details from her,
Mm, as
and
good friends
Cassian.
do.
Oh, yes. Cassian and Nesta spent an additional 2 days at the lake training and doing the nasty. Okay. Now, the three friends, they continue their training, gossip in hand, and then they get a new test. It's a test in how to complete their training of being a Valkyrie, and it uses some Illyrian techniques. They have to cut a ribbon that is hanging from a tree and cut it clean through the center. I've never tried that before. On first read, it does sound seemingly easy. We've learned it is not. They are
I
not able
mean,
quite to do it.
I'm not a master of the sword by any means. So
No, I imagine it must be like you must go pretty quick because the ribbon can move and yeah, it's a whole thing.
yeah,
So
very
that's their task
fluid.
at hand now. Now, the hard day of training is followed by an even harder night of pounding away at the desk, and I don't mean the spreadsheets. More like spread
Mm-mm.
legs.
Mm-hmm.
And we cut now to a day at the library. Nesta opens up to Gwyn about her past and her desires to hear more music and asks to join Gwyn at their services. And while she's there, Nesta is fully entranced by the music. She loses herself within its beauty. She goes so deep within herself that the music leads her to a connection to the harp and the dread trove. She can visualize everything. It takes her across the lands of the prison, deep within to its cavernous heart. And that means it's off to the prison we go. As
Mm.
Cassian and Nesta and her maid, Greatsword, go inside to retrieve the awaiting harp. She finds a hidden room, retrieves the harp, but it could never just be that easy because Bryalin opens a connection to her through it and the dread trove item, hers
Mm.
being the crown. Now, Bryalin threatens those closest to Nesta, particularly Gwyn and Emerie, and it brings to life one of Nesta's greatest fears, that those she cares for will be taken from her and hurt because of her. Nesta breaks free from Bryalin's gaze, but now the harp itself is the next battle. It tricks Nesta into playing it in order to break free from the room, saying it will take down the wards and open a door. But it opens more than Nesta bargained for.
We knew that was coming, right?
Of course, it feels very obvious, but it's like something's going to happen. They mention it too often, but
Yeah.
you don't know how. And now this is the how.
Yeah. And
So
here's the how.
Right. As Cassian and Nesta begin to make their way out, they notice something's very, very wrong. And Lanthus's cell door is open. Lanthus takes a keen interest in Nesta, and as the moment arrives, Cassian takes his shot, and Nesta follows his order to run. But as she reaches towards the top of the prison, she stops herself. Not a coward, not a failure. She takes a bold move and uses the harp to bring her right back to Cassian as she leaps through space and time. And while doing so, she notices there are Autumn Court soldiers coming down the prison stairs. She lands in front of Cassian. It's so much. You have to really stick with the plot here. She lands in front of Cassian and sees him in a losing battle with Lanthus. And then she uses her own sword, her made greatsword, to strike at him. And the blow forces him to go into his physical form. Confused by what Nesta is, and the realizing of where her powers come from, Lanthus shows her a vision of the world they could build together. But she breaks free from his vision and uses her own sword to decapitate him.
Yes.
What? So cool.
So good.
This god that could never be killed. It strikes through with her made weapon that is imbued with her death power, and it kills a god, which was always known as the unkillable. She quickly retrieves Cassian and takes him back to the river house using the harp. It is there that Cassian is quickly mended, and they discuss next plans. Ultimately, they come to the decision to secure their alliance with the Autumn Court and Eris. And their tactic is to use Nesta's dancing and manipulation skills at the winter solstice ball. Cassian is fuming at this decision, but he kind of gets it together quickly and agrees to be understanding of her ability to play the part. Now, a few days later, Cassian and Nesta visit her cottage in the human lands. And don't ask me what I typed there. I don't know. Well, it says Gina.
Gina lands.
It's not even remotely close. I don't know. At least I know what it was supposed to say.
That one just got me.
It got me too. Okay.
The Gina lands.
Sorry. A few days later, Cassie and Nesta visit her cottage in the human lands. And it's a very emotional visit, for sure. But it's time to go. Time for her to move on. And a month later, we got some big old time jumps in these chapters.
We really jumped forward.
A lot. A month later, and after many dance lessons with more, we'll talk about that.
Quite the combo.
Nesta is finding a way to be more at peace. Her friendships are blossoming, and she's even finding a deeper connection with the house. And it's finally time for the ball in the Hewn City, where we see the beginnings of this interaction from Cassian's POV. We watch as Feyre and Rhysand and the sisters trailing them, and Feyre reveals her pregnancy to the entire court, leaving them in shock. It's now time for Eris and Nesta to dance. And Cassian notes that Elaine undersold Nesta's abilities. Much to our surprise, though, Cassian cuts in after a few dances and brings Nesta to life in a new way. She does such a good job throughout the night that it prompts Eris to offer anything in return for her as his bride. The night ends with that offer hanging in the balance. And we return with Nesta standing outside the river house on winter solstice. It's been 1 year since this same night at the townhouse. A night where Nesta was anything but okay. Now, though, a new version of her enters. This Nesta receives gifts, withstands the fire, and enjoys her, quote, merry little band. No longer an outsider. As the night concludes, Cassian pays her a visit for one more gift. Perhaps the most meaningful gift Nesta could receive. An iPod Nano.
That's basically what
basically what it is. Okay, but no, for real. It's this really cool Perithian technology level device. It's pretty awesome.
But like, yeah, iPod Nano stacked. Man, girl, what a gift that would have been back in the early 2000s. Here's an iPod Nano with all of the music that you love. Girl, you'd have been smitten too. We all would have been.
100%. Now, Cassian went above and beyond. He collected the most beautiful music for her to have with her at any time. And it lets Nesta fall deeper and puts up walls faster.
And
Why?
I sat here, Autumn, and I went, no.
Well, we do get an answer to that. Nesta does not feel that she deserves him. But through her admission and pain, Cassian, as always, sees her. Cassian says, "You're not going to marry Eris." Nesta, "No. There will be no one else for either of us. Yes. Ever. Ever." They join, and the mating bond, whether they realize it or not, sets into place. But it's not explicitly stated, but felt and described in the same as Rhys and Feyre's. Mm-hmm. Finally, Nesta asks him to stay. Safe at last, she sleeps.
It's so beautiful.
But the next day is our snowball fight. Yay! And Cassian, he's like, hey, good morning. Gotta go. Got a snowball fight. And also, I need you to do some checks on the Illyrian camps the day after Christmas. So, peace out. Okay.
See you later.
And Nesta begins to become consumed by her worry for Cassian. And to avoid being lost in her thoughts, she invites her friends over for a good old-fashioned sleepover. Gwyn says, "You live in a magic house?" She's also impressed by the house. And through the night, the friends bond, they share laughs, they deepen their connection with each other, and they make a wish for each other. Quote, "I wish for us to have the courage to go out into the world when we're ready, and to be able to find each other no matter what." Sweet. We return to Cassian's POV after he's checked the legions, and he returns to the training ring. He notes that there's something different about the three women's friendship, somehow firmer and binding. And with a powerful statement that history would remember, quote, "Nothing will break us." And Gwyn becomes the first to cut the ribbon. Then Emerie, and finally Nesta. Now officially Valkyrie.
Oh, what a gratifying moment. So wonderful to have that happen for them.
The next day, the training ring has been transformed into an obstacle course, but it must be handled as a team. And made worse, it changes every night. Weeks pass. Nesta runs the stairs for a good time, and the priestesses now start to cut the ribbon. And after
gratifying.
Yes, love it for the priestesses. Now it's 2 more months. Okay, we are hop, skip, jumping through time here. Nesta, Emerie, and Gwyn finally defeat the course. The surprise, though, is that the course was a replica of the blood right qualifier. Cass and Az even purposefully invited Devlin to witness their triumph, but it's definitely to his dismay. They are now able to see, or Devlin, is now able to see that the women are just as capable as any warrior in Illyria. And that they may also do the blood right if they wish, but they each decide they're like, nah, I'd rather be Valkyrie. I don't need no blood right. Well. Cassian and Nesta spend the next few weeks doing the bang, bang, bangity bang, and love making. Apparently there's a difference. And Nesta realizes she now feels a sense of purpose, clarity, direction, and focus. So she gives herself one more test. Down the stairs she goes, giving herself over to the pain and allowing it not to break her, but as she makes it down all 10,000, she goes down not from rage, but resilience. Even more fitting, this all happens on Starfall night. And she knows back up at the top of those stairs, Cassian will be waiting, quote, as he had been waiting for her for years now. And so she begins the brutal ascension into the new version of herself. Spring has now arrived, another big time jump. Yeah. And things have mostly stayed the same. But there's a red star that is blasted across the sky. Bad things to come, maybe? Nesta and Cassian go to meet Eris again. And there it's where he gives us the download about the 3 sacred mountains. And he learns that they have acquired the harp, which doesn't sit well with Eris, nor does Nesta's denial of his marriage proposal. Yeah. Cassian and Nesta return to Velaris and spend a little bit more time together enjoying the city. As they chat, Nesta brings up the conversation we've all been waiting so long for, the mating bond. She points out that Feyre and Rhys are mates, and Cassian simply says, and we're not? This leads to tension over semantics and honoring her identity as a human and a fae, which spirals into her using their bargain. But not really for anything positive. No, it's used for one final push against her own vulnerability and to save herself from hurting Cassian with her words. She tells Cassian that he has to go to the House of Wind for the night. He cannot speak to her he can't speak to her for a week unless she does so first. And that's it. He can't talk to her. It burns. She feels the tattoo leave and she's heartbroken. Nesta goes to Emerie and more helps her get there. When she arrives, she starts to break down crying. Gwyn joins them, leaving the library for the first time, and they spend the evening comforting Nesta, and off to bed they go. And Nesta knows that she's ready to apologize to Cassian. She's ready to mend things, to move forward into her new life, to accept it all. And just as we feel the relief and the hope of tomorrow, there is a jarring male scent, a suffocating scream, and blackness. The last piece of the puzzle comes from Cassian, as he and Rhys go into Emerie's house and find that the beds are empty. Devlin's scent is there because he used the blood-right magic to winnow in, sedate the women for taking them to compete against their will in the blood-right, either to their death or to their victory.
And I say 3 more people are about to be in that final class of Illyrians. I'm guessing it right now. It? Those 3 are going to make it to the top. They're going to touch the obelisk on the top of Ramiel.
That was an epic section of the book. So much. I mean, yes, there's so many time jumps, but like there has to be, because one of the biggest complaints in fantasy novels is like, and then she was a warrior after a few weeks.
This is much more realistic.
Yeah. Time has really passed. We're talking like almost a full year and then some. Okay. Yeah. So she's really had to work at this, and she's training every day. Like, you put that much time and consistency into anything, you're going to become better. And I think this is an actual realistic depiction of how long it takes to heal, but also how long it takes to become a badass.
Yeah. It does not happen overnight, or it shouldn't happen overnight.
Yeah. Yes. Now, because this section was an entire part of the book, part 3, we do have a lot of world building to cover here. We didn't have as much in our last episode, but we definitely do now. So I'm going to kick this off. Okay. The wards around the veiled room are described as ancient, probably existing before the prison was actually a prison. Like, we know that the prison has not always been there. It's like I guess in the grand scheme of time, newer, even though it's ancient. Okay. We know, once again, we're told the island may have been an 8th court once. Like, we have alluded to this so hard that it feels just like fact at this point, right?
Yeah.
Cassian thinks that maybe the prison inmates were put there to hide the harp so that no one would notice it amongst everything else. I also found it very interesting that the harp sits upon an 8-pointed star. The
just
same
like
as
the tattoos?
Nesta's back. What? That feels important. And
Agreed.
the floor surrounding the harp is covered in stars that Nesta describes as a constellation and being different from night court magic. With all of
Mhm.
this droppings that we've been getting, droppings like a rat, we're, we've got we've got knowledge that Muriel is thinking about, 26, 27 worlds. We know that not Cassian, sorry, Rhysand has got
Resand.
like map outs of the universe that
Mhm.
he's figuring out. Okay. Now we've got a constellation that is not our own on a floor, like a map, surrounded by a magical object and a
And an
land.
object that can take you anywhere.
Ah, yes, yes. So the harp, okay? The harp room is like a little bit scary. We've got screaming voices of mothers begging for their children be taken through a portal or to be saved. We've got combine that, like I said, with the world theory. Like there's so many clues. The harp calls Nesta its sister.
Mm.
Maybe it's because like the cauldron connection, I'm assuming, with the
You
powers.
know, but
Um,
girl, if it, yeah, whatever. I'll say more later. It's just too much.
there's so much here. Okay. The small strings in the harp are used for games, light movements, and leaping, which we learn as Nesta uses it is just for like
Hmm.
jumps through space, right? The longer final ones lead to deep horrors and wonder.
And don't
If
they
you,
say like death would kneel to the final string or run from the
yes,
final string or something?
yes, everything pays fealty to the harp, seasons, kingdoms, order of time, and worlds are of no consequence to it. Even death itself bows to the last string.
So, like,
Amazing.
can we bring somebody back from the dead with it?
I,
There's just a lot. We gotta be bebopping into another universe. We
I feel like that's where we're going. Honestly, tell me we're not. That
It's not like there's not a whole other book
Well,
section.
and
There
let's just
is some
throw this out there,
here.
y'all. Whether you've read the other series or not, which by the way, we're about to start. So get yourself
Throne of
ready with Throne of Glass,
Glass.
okay? But whether you've read the other series or not, if we are just looking off of what can we theorize within just this book series, this is
Because
the
I
last
haven't
book
read
we
the other
have right
ones.
now. Right. But we can make assumptions just based on the information we have been given in this series thus far that we are going to be leaving the world that we're in
Mm,
or opening something because
mm,
it's all
yeah,
right there. It's
yeah.
telling us that's
It's
where we're
hitting us in
going.
the face.
Yes. If you're paying attention to it, that is. Which, to be
For sure.
honest and to be fair, on a first read, this is so much information to consume. So
And
I
that's
can
why
see,
we're here.
yes, exactly. I can see how easy it would be to just be like, oh, that's fun.
Hmm.
Moving on.
Oh, I mean, if I like even, I read Akatar and Akamath before we did this, right? And
Yeah.
going back through those, I'm reading it now with a different mindset, right? Like if you guys
Mhm.
want to read it for fun and then have us drop all the little nuggets that we pick up for you, we are happy to do that. But it is
Absolutely.
funny as I read and like how long it takes me to get through some of these chapters because I'm like, that feels like something. Maybe it's not, maybe it is, but there's so many more books I have to read and there's more to come. So I might as well write it down, right?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
lots of little
absolutely.
nuggets.
Absolutely. Now, Lanthus apparently knew the harp was next to him. He could hear it, like
Through
singing,
the rocks.
essentially.
Mhm.
Um, which I do think was interesting. Now, moving on to Lanthus specifically, he gives us so much history because he's very old. Okay, he's
Yes.
more than 15,000 years old. He's older than Amryn. All right, Lanthus, he tries to persuade Nesta essentially to being with him and reveals something very interesting. He says, "Come with me and we shall return what was lost. We shall rebuild what was once before the golden legions of the Fae cast off their chains and overthrew us. We shall resurrect the wild hunts, ride rampant through the night. We shall build palaces of darkness, ice, flame, and night." Very interesting. Like, there's so much to break down in this, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little fearful of me saying too much. So I want to know, when I read that section, what do you pick up on, Miranda, as being like,
I mean, all of it.
I know.
So somebody having the world before the Fae, and we learn who those people are. So we'll get into that. So I wrote that down. I wrote down too that the Fae were once enslaved, like they did to the people. Now the people are kind of trying to overthrow them, or they are, but they aren't, right? The wild hunt, I thought, was something that we should note, and then we learn more about that later from Reese. Palaces of darkness, ice, flame, and night. So Nesta's kind of flamish, right? Silver flame. Rhysand is the, most powerful High Lord who's dark and night and all the things. And so we've questioned too, and I wrote this down in my question section, but more seems to be different. Is that maybe where her ancestry lies, is within these people before the Fae?
Great question. I don't know.
It all stuck out to me.
I don't know. I can't tell you Moore's heritage. I have theories about Moore's heritage, but I don't know. But I hope we find out in October.
We are crossing our fingers. And if not October, maybe January.
January. Okay. Yes. So I just wanted to hear what you pulled out of that, because, again, I want to be very careful to you and all of our listeners that I don't say something.
I wrote all those things down.
Exactly. Now, a lot of what I'm thinking is still theories, but I want to give us all the chance to read other books before we connect some of these dots. So I did note a lot of those things, and I'm going to specifically go to one of Lanthis's lines where he says, the golden legions of the Fae cast off their chains and overthrew us. Let's talk about the Daglin. Okay. Lanthis being a part of the Daglin. Tall, strange-looking beings with crowns upon their head, creators of the Fae. They were near gods and monsters. They called themselves the Daglin, ruling over Fae and human alike. Petty, cruel, and they drink the magic of the land.
Like wine, he says.
Now, Lanthis, before we keep moving deeper into this, I want to note, when he's beheaded, he has black blood. I'm just going to make note of that because we have talked about blood color before.
I noted that too. And then I was like, who else had black blood? The Suriel had black blood. Was the Suriel an ancient being?
It's all very interesting. I just like to note colors of blood.
Agreed. I was like, black blood.
And I like to note colors of blood that haven't been mentioned when we specifically have bloody scenes. So moving on. I'm gonna now jump over to the wild hunt, because it's something else that Lanthis brings up and we're like, what the fuck is that? Okay. It's how the Daglin kept the Fae and human in line. Merciless warriors and hounds, unlike what we know now, apparently. No, they were hounds that looked like the beasts in the hewn city. And they went on a full hunt to kill. It's essentially like a purge, is what it sounded like.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Now, deeper into Prythian's history, we get some downloads about Finn and Gwydion, and how they rose up and led the charge. That was the breaker of the chains. They unified the Fae together to go up against the Daglin. Finn was the first High King, and he was betrayed by his queen and his general, who took some of his bloodline's most powerful and precious weapons. Then chaos followed, and then we had the 7 High Lords who rose. The Lords hunted for any of those beings that were left. So not just the rest of the Daglin, pushing them out, but also anything that was made by them. And that's when they found Amren, and they were like, I don't know what you are, to the prison.
Who are you? What are you?
No. Yeah, so Amren was locked up out of fear of the unknown. So that happens when chaos ensues. Okay, now we also get some history about the mountains, which I find very interesting. But this download comes from Eris. Okay, the mountains are bleak and barren and somehow thrumming with presence. There are 3 of them called sister peaks. The mountains are the one in the middle where we had Amarantha, the one that we call the prison, and Ramiel in Illyria. They don't know why they exist. They just do. And 2 out of 3 of them are known to have underground palaces carved into them, but no one has bothered to look underneath Ramiel and see what lies beneath it. But we do know that they hold tunnels under them that were carved long ago. We don't know by who, but that's the thing that connects them with like the rivers and stuff. Okay, pause for a second. Didn't Lanthus say we're going to like rebuild what was lost and we shall build palaces? To me, the Daglin made the palaces.
I mean, I'm assuming so. That would make
it feels sense like that feels obvious when we connect the dots there. Found that interesting. Couple more things. These are really little. Something about the trove. Nesta saw a 4th possible object in Lanthus's vision. We know that Lanthus is really old. He would know if there were 4. We know that Rhys and Amren think it's been like lost to history and a rumor that there were 4, but we didn't really spend much more time with it. But Nesta's like, there's a 4th object. I saw it. It was blurred though. Interesting. Ataraxia, Nesta's new greatsword name. And Vivian is pregnant.
I love that ataraxia comes from the old language. Nesta's like, I don't know what it means, but I like it. And Lanthus kind of laughs at it. So I'm curious if we ever know like what that means or who that was.
We're going to have to find out, but because he laughed at it. It's that her choice. So
I assumed as much, but I appreciated that we got a little like, oh, you named it ataraxia. I'm like, okay, so
yeah, it's like,
what does that mean?
Some basic white woman naming their child something from a different language they don't understand and finding out it means something crazy.
Probably. I'm sure it's better than that, but.
Oh, yes, but I'm saying it reminds me of the real world.
For sure.
Now, did you have any other moments you were thinking of?
Nope, you covered them all.
Okay, here we go. Nesta?
Yes, let's dive into her. And of course, we've got to touch on that growth piece first. So I wanted to bring up the stairs again, especially towards the beginning of these chapters, because she doesn't finish them, right? She finished them the first time to go and have her argument with Amren. But in thinking of her growth, she's really smart not to finish them again, because she knows that means having to face Feyre and having to face Amren. She also knows that Cassian could just take her to them, but they give her the stairs, give her time to process, to think, to kind of work through that. She could totally finish the stairs. She's already done it. We know that she can, but I think she's using that as time to heal, to grow, literally both in her strength, but also mentally too. And then we see that again with Starfall, because that's an opportunity for her to think, feel, and process and make the decision to go back to Cassian, to go back to the party, to be a part of that, as opposed to whatever's taking place out in Velaris.
Yeah. I really love that she's finally opening up and owning her history with the truth and trying to separate herself from her own self-hatred.
Mm-hmm.
I think, we see this when she goes to the cottage. She's really embarrassed by the circumstances which she was living in and the fact that Cassian is seeing it. But he reminds her, hey, I've lived in far worse. I've lived in the
Mm-hmm.
mud. This is nothing. You have a roof
Mm-hmm.
over your head. And I love that, she works through her grief and anger of her father. She really opens up about that. And she's finally ready to forgive one more part of herself. And she even tries to have like a small fire going of her own choosing, keeps her father's wooden rose on display. These are all, to me, huge signs of healing. And then take it one step further, we get to see her experiencing joy,
Mm.
which I
Yeah,
love. Yeah.
really beautiful moments.
Especially when it comes to like music and dancing. That's where I really see it from her. It allows her to feel so free. And as a vocalist, as a dancer, I saw myself in that part too. I very much so understand. Hopefully all of us have experienced that with music. If you haven't, I hope it finds you one day. But this like raw, opening, beautiful feeling in your chest. And it gives her that carefree smile. She's able to laugh and just let loose with Dancing with Cassian. And I just think, that's so beautiful. And she thinks, the world is so beautiful. And she's grateful to be alive to see it. I love that line.
Mm-hmm.
For such
Super
a
big moment.
pessimist, that's a really positive way to look at things.
100%.
So I really, really appreciated that. Um, while we're at that party, we also see her strength when it comes to drinking, right? We don't really discuss this in depth, but obviously Nesta has an addiction issue when it comes to alcohol and she needs to be sober. And she realizes that she doesn't want any wine. She hasn't had any and no one's offering it. She doesn't really care anymore, which, wow, what a big moment.
Mm.
Um, and, she does have like this brief moment of relapse when she's like thinking about Cassian and all the, she pushed him away. She shouldn't have. But again, growth. Tomorrow she would explain everything. Why the steps into the unknown frightened her. The life beyond. Apologizing for using her bargain to send him away. And then do it until he smiled again. His smile means so much to her. And I love that. I also really love this line because I think we could all use this as a reminder. Her future did not need to be so planned. As long as she had Cassie and her friends by her side, they would not let her fall back into that pit. And I just thought, damn you, Devlin, we were finally ready.
Yeah, so ready for that. But I want to touch on too that even though these are some hard truths to read and for Nesta to admit, I think there's some quotes that I want to bring up because I think they're important to her growth too, because we're finally opening up in these chapters. Yeah. We've opened up a little bit here and there, but we got a lot of it to Cassian. She said, Eris is the brute. He is a brute and a piece of shit, and I would marry him because I am just like him. You are everything I have never been and will never be good enough for. Your friends know it, and I have carried it around with me all this time that I do not deserve you. After I failed in so many ways, denying myself of you, it was my punishment. To speak that out loud to Cassian, and he, I think he gets it, right? That's why he's so willing to push against their little bargain to go see her. He spends his night in the House of Wind, but he's like, nope, I'm going to go and I'm going to be there. And she's going to have to talk to me, or I'm going to sit there and look at her for a week because he now truly has heard the way that she thinks about herself and the way that she thinks about him in connection to herself. And those were hard moments to read and to have between the two of them, but they were also really necessary. It's been necessary for Nesta to open up, to speak her truth, because if she didn't speak it out loud, I don't think we would ever truly get through that. And
Yeah.
Cassian wouldn't be able to help her through that. Emerie and Gwyn wouldn't be able to help her through that if she didn't actually verbalize it. So, not the most fun things to read, but also so important for us to get from her.
I do want to touch on Nesta's magic for just a little bit because I love learning more about this. And the fact that she was able to use the harp and her connection to it with music, go deep into that thread of herself that ties her to the same power as the harp. But this time with a visual component. Like she has her own internal ability to scry with her own bones and the stone that she was surrounded in by the mountain. I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And Lanthus wonders what death god Nesta is and what sword she has, confusing it for a long ago sword named Narbin, an old death sword. But I just think it's so interesting. He's sitting there, he's like, which death god are you? I don't remember you. You're a death god. Like, we know her power is death, but an unkillable, presumably Daglin creature, monster, being god thinks that Nesta's a god. That's cool.
And I like the way that he asks that. Who are you beneath that flesh? Whose fire burns silver in your gaze? And I said, I want to know too, Lanthus. We'd all love the answer.
So cool.
Yeah.
Well, I doubt Lanthus has ever met a being made by the cauldron's power. So, what is she, in fact, the first of her kind?
Seems
the one and only. Ah, goodness.
Calls her the Queen of Queens. So, and I think within her magic too, we get a lot of queen in this section. And the way that she uses that. She glowed with the attention, owned it, and commanded it when she was in the hewn city. She'd seen a queen of the night as merciless. She'd seen a queen of the night looking in the mirror, as merciless and cold and beautiful as the god Lanthus had wanted to make her, death's consort, death herself. She's even kind of seeing herself in this way, although she doesn't want the picture that Lanthus painted for her. I think she sees a little bit more of maybe why he saw that, of why others have referred to her in the way of a queen.
I really like this note that you made right here about what Lanthus refers to her as.
When he realizes like who she is, she's the Nesta, because there's been whispers of her right through the rock and through the earth, and he says, come with me, Queen of Queens, and we shall return what was once lost. And Autumn mentioned that in our summary and in our world building.
So good.
It is. Yes.
So good. Now he also says that she could send entire kingdoms and courts to their knees. I don't want her to become this version, but then I'm kind of like, can we just get like a little bit more of a preview into this timeline? Because I'm just curious.
Right. I'm like, if
Amarantha 2.0,
well, if Sarah J. Maas isn't the woman that she is and wants a happy ending, these books could be very different. Nesta could be, if we wanted to focus a lot more wholly on Feyre, we could have easily had a whole other villain in Nesta. And I appreciate that that's not what we're getting, but I've thought,
wow, this is so intriguing.
Yeah, like I said at the top, this idea that I keep thinking about, Nesta choosing, who will I be? Will I, lean into the good? Will I lean into the bad? Which we can all do, right? Feyre could have done the same thing with her power. Like Rhys could do the same thing with his. Amarant, like we could all do that. This could be a wholly different series if she decided to lean into the bad, into the evil.
Absolutely, 100%. Now, one more note I have about Nesta's power is how Amren tells her that Nesta, capital M, made the house with her powers. that she brought it to life with her silent wish, born from loneliness and desperation, that she needed a friend. And the darkness in the pit of the library is its heart and a mirror of hers. But the house is not wholly good or bad, right? It is both, just like her. But Nesta says, but the house is good. And Amren questions, is it? I still think there is a connection to the mother here. I'm not letting that theory die. I won't die on the hill, but I'm not letting the theory die, because I still think that Nesta's connection to the cauldron is the good part of it, which is the mother and the power of the land. Like, I still think that. And if Nesta made the house, then Nesta's connection to the house is through the same vein. So I'm not letting that die.
Yeah, I don't know. That was maybe a little too over my head. I was like, so Nesta's the house. That one, I just I read it and I moved on from it. I was like, I don't know that this is clicking for me personally.
Yeah, I understand.
But okay.
Like, in my brain, it's not that Nesta is the house, but that Nesta's what made it come alive with her power, like imbuing her power into the house.
Right.
And in my mind, her power comes from the cauldron, the good part of the cauldron, the mother, and that's what she imbued into it. But that might just be my headcanon.
I wanted to touch on too with Nesta's power, with the harp. She mentions that she feels like it was something bigger than the cauldron or the mother that brought her there. The universe, the voice she hears, the tendrils that her and others are feeling, like, what is this bigger being? What is drawing her? Is it the constellations? Is it space? Something is pulling her to the harp. And then touching the harp too with her power, but also with Bryalen's power, because she's also made by the cauldron, creates this like open connection between them, like it kind of did with the cauldron when she scried for that in ACOSF War. So I'm glad to see that has closed, that Nesta can kind of close that off, where she necessarily or couldn't necessarily do that with the cauldron. But interesting that created like an open tether between the two of them, both utilizing these dread trove items and I don't know, thinking about each other at the same time, or just using them at the same time. I am assuming that we're not going to get any sort of closing of the chapter on Bryalen and Cochet, because we only have like 10% left of this book according to my Kindle. So I'm assuming we're going to get through the blood right, and then we're probably going to be left on a motherfucking cliffhanger again with whatever the hell's happening with the dread trove and the war and all of that stuff. But that's okay, because we've got 2 more books coming. So
I'm so excited. Okay, anything else on Nesta Queen magic?
Oh, I mean, we've got lots of Nesta to go, but done with the magic.
Specifically those areas of her. I know. What a fun character to break down. Okay, so Nesta and her friendships, and specifically from that direction angle. Okay, the house. We're back to the house. But just for a second, even if the connection's a little confusing, the house is one of her friends. And it takes her to its heart. The darkness in the pit reveals its truth to her, that it understands her pain and suffering. And that's why it reflects that towards the priestesses and Nesta and Emerie. And it wants them to know that she, I'm calling the house a she because I'm pretty sure it's a girl, understands and sees them. And for me, again, I think it confirms the theory that specific kind of darkness is the mother, because the mother represents magic of the land. And hearing the stories about the Daglin using the magic, they pull and drink the magic from the land, and the mother is the land, and her magic was being pulled from the earth for them. That's her version of suffering, because the mother's like, I want you to see that I understand your pain, that I have experienced suffering. So then I connected it to the Daglin and taking the magic from her.
Strings and theories, man. I love it for you. I love it for you. Uh, Speaking of friends, huge moment where she shares the past year of her life with Gwyn. Quote, after the war, I was in a bad place. I still am, I suppose. Which also, what a moment for Nesta to recognize that. But for more than a year after the war, I did a lot of things I regret, hurt people I regret harming, and I hurt myself. I took strangers to my bed to punish myself, to drown myself. And in sharing her story with Gwyn, she doesn't run from her like Nesta thought that she would. And this is a moment for Gwyn, but a moment for them together where Gwyn says, your story is worth telling. She's not going to run from her. She's going to listen to her. She's going to be there for her. And Nesta realizes, though, too, that she's going to do the same. Gwyn could tell her nothing that would make her turn and run from her, which she kind of knew that before already. But really hearing that, your story is worth telling. And Nesta's like, well, so is yours. It's important for us to hear those and to be there for each other.
Yes. And I love that Gwyn is like putting them in the history of the Valkyries. That's so wonderful. All of their stories to tell. Okay, well, this pulls me over to our sleepover.
So cute.
Which was such a fun little interlude to all of this drama, if you will. Okay, we're fully clothed in a bathtub of bubbles in the middle of a library. There are silent fireworks going off, mini Pegasuses flying around, and we're making friendship bracelets with each other. Girlhood, bonding. I love it.
It's so sweet. She literally says, a chosen family, like the one Feyre had found for herself. She's finally, the house, Cassian, Gwyn and Emerie. She's creating her own little inner circle, her own chosen family.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. I did write down glows question mark because she's like, did I see the bracelets glow?
Oh, she totally put her power in those when she made that wish. She totally embedded her power
so
in those
you clocked
bracelets. Absolutely. Absolutely.
You didn't write it down, and I was like, maybe she didn't notice.
No, I absolutely did. And then I went, okay, they're wearing the bracelets. They have just been dumped into the blood right without each other. There it is. No, she absolutely put her power in those bracelets.
Miranda,
and that's going to bring them together in the next couple of chapters. That's my theory for next episode.
Miranda is a smarty.
No, yes. Well, and I mean, even before they said it glowed, when she was like, no. And she takes all three of them and is holding them to wish into them. I was like, she's totally putting her power into those.
But I don't think she knows she's doing it.
No, she doesn't in this moment.
She still does not fully understand her power.
No. But the fly
careful
on the
what
wall
you touch,
is
okay?
Me. Yeah, careful what you touch and what you say around it. But the fly on the wall that is me, I was like, oh yeah. Your power is now in those bracelets. Super cool. Super cool.
Yeah,
good power.
I just had this like vision of her giving Cassian a hand job.
What? Sounds like he's got a magical penis already. So I don't know, babe.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so Nesta and her sisters. Excuse me. Okay. Of course, Nesta's still avoiding like the one person she needs to talk to heal fully. Feyre.
But I will say this moment had me going, like literally earlier when I was like, I went, no. This part had me going, wow, because what a moment of internal reflection.
Yeah.
Quote, and I think I might be glad Feyre did this for me. The drinking, the males, I don't miss any of it. But the music that I miss. And I went, wow, what a moment of reflection, though. And I cannot wait for the moment that Nesta is ready to talk to Feyre and to share some of these realizations. And then there's the realizations with Gwyn's conversation, which we'll get into here in a little bit. But all of this, it hasn't happened and it needs to happen. And I have faith that it will happen.
We're ready for it to happen.
All of these little realizations about Feyre and Nesta and their relationship in these chapters was just chef's kiss. It was so good.
And we do get a little apology moment between the two of them using their mind connection. And that's really sweet. You know, Feyre's talking to her. And I think, you know, for Nesta, it's already going to be hard enough for her to approach Feyre. So this felt like the most accessible way for them to have a moment is just the two of them without outside ears. So I appreciated that. I thought that was sweet.
And I think it releases that weight off of Nesta's shoulders just a little bit so that when they do have that conversation, it's still going to be really heavy, but there's also already that little bit of understanding between the two sisters. There's been that little moment that I think will help the big one when it comes.
Yes. Now, I'm going to save this to say last. So
I have it in her section too.
Perfect. So, you know, we mentioned Gwyn sharing her story of her sister, and this for Nesta starts to remind her of Feyre.
And how sweet though too, you know, when she's like, sisters can have differences. There can be chasms between them. You know, Gwyn and her sister had their own issues. It's not just a Feyre and I thing. What a moment for her to realize that it's not just an issue with me and my sisters. We can still love each other. We can still move through this. I think it was how wonderful that Gwyn had a sister and was able to share that with Nesta. You know, give her some understanding.
Important. And I mean, I know you have brothers, but you also have sisters in a different sense. I have one sibling, one sister. And, you know, it's very true. With any of our siblings, there are moments where we're not going to get along or we're going to see things differently. We're going to make different choices. And at the end of the day, Gwyn reminds all of us, like, I just wish I could hug my sister one more time. I wish I could tell her I love her one more time. Because at the end of the day, that's all that mattered. And
Absolutely.
I was like, I'm going to call my sister. Beautiful. Okay, Nesta and Cassian.
Oh gosh, I wrote so much. I was like, my notes when I read were just full of this chunk.
I mean, this is their love story, and this was a really big moment in their love story, and I just love, and I need to hear the two of them say those unspoken words. The constant unspoken.
It's on the tip of their tongues. I
wrote down a couple. Close. Yes. I wrote down a few moments where, you know, we're alluding to the I love yous here. She kissed him on the cheek and says that she considers him her friend. And then she's about to say something. You know, Sergio Mass loves to cut off a thought.
Always.
She's about to say something to him. And then Lanthus. And I've always loved you? Is that what you were going to say? Okay. Then we get the continuous mention of unspoken words and yielding feeling of their hearts. And it's not, it's unsaid but understood. And then later, after the stairs, they look at each other with those, quote, silent words. What if we just said it?
That would be nice, wouldn't it? That would be just too easy. And it's not even, there's all these other little moments, right? Where she's like clutching his hand in the prison and she says he was her rope to the life in this lightless place. Cassian says, I can't risk you in the prison. And it hits her in the motherfucking feels, as it should. Because for both of them, you know, this is, there's then this moment too, where she's like, you have to. You're training me to be a warrior, yet you'd keep me from danger. How is that any better than a caged animal? That's also big for the two of them, that they can't always protect each other. They can't just love each other. They still have to be Cassian and Nesta, who are not going to not be in harm's way, but figuring out how to love each other through that. She reaches up at one point over his worry for her and places her hand to his cheek and he kisses it. Oh, what a moment. And again, you mentioned Lanthus, and we get cut off with the "and I've always." And then to move into, from their love to the mating bond, we get cut off again because Lanthus says, based on scent alone, I would say that you two are, and then cut off again.
Yep. But you actually, here's the thing. Who cuts Lanthus off? It's Cassian. Cassian purposely interrupts him. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want Lanthus to be the one to tell Nesta. Mates.
It's like the Suriel telling Feyre. Rhys would have ripped the Suriel apart for that one if he'd been there.
Yes, and Nesta would have been pissed. Like, why didn't you tell me? Just like Feyre was, right?
But then he does tell her, and then she still gets pissed. I know. But so did Feyre.
Mm-hmm. But I just think that was interesting. Now, speaking of the mating bond, oh my gosh. Cassian says, from the moment I saw you in my house. Oh, so no, wait, this is Nesta saying this. Sorry. From the moment I saw you and met you in my house, I wanted you more than reason. You were all I could think about, and it terrified me. I'm still afraid that if I let myself have you, you will be taken away. A very clear call to their pull towards each other. And Cassian mentions something similar. And then there's this golden binding and starlight. The mating bond taking root.
1000%.
You're mine and I am yours. Music between their souls, and his voice was her favorite melody. All the world was a song, and his heart was her melody. So beautiful lines, and the way she connects that. And then there was some other mating bond things here. Nesta retreats at the truth of their mating bond and the loss of her past self. Like, I actually do kind of get where that's coming from a little bit. I understand. I love that she was able to move through that, and actually honestly kind of relatively quickly within the evening. Yeah. But it sends Cassian into that moment of anger and frustration. He uses that word shackled.
Yeah, tough word choice. He's not.
I cringed.
He's good with his words in bed. Outside of the bedroom, he struggles a little bit.
Oh, Cassian, I cringed so hard.
That was a bad word choice.
But then, Nesta, proud of her, she controls her anger. She doesn't want to tear into him like she used to. She doesn't want to spiral. So, yeah, she calls in that bargain and goes to find comfort with her friends instead of a bar.
Not what I expected her to use the bargain for.
Yeah, I know. I remember you making your theory. I was like,
who knows what they're going to use
but
it
I
for,
wouldn't have anticipated I wouldn't have guessed this. I would not have anticipated that, which I think is what makes it so startling. When you're like, whoa.
When you kind of forget about it, right? Like, it's there, but we're not harping on it. We're not, like with Feyre and Rhysand's initial bargain, she talked about it a lot. Granted, it was something she could see, but we just kind of forget that it's there too.
Now, I was really in love with a lot of the moments where they seem to really understand each other and be such good mates. We have you did mention this one, the I can't risk you, right? I love that he understands like he has to let her go and be brave and do the hard thing, be the warrior. And then Cassian, he is practicing dancing with Mor so that he can dance with her at the ball.
What a sweet man. What a good man.
So sweet. And he leads her and is looking, well, more like she leads him, but is looking into their eyes. And the entire time she's thinking that music is no longer the most beautiful thing. He is. And she lets herself smile fully. What a picture. Now let's talk about that iPod Nano, okay, aka the Symphonia. Cassian took time to go back, have those orchestras replay those songs, and then go to all her favorite taverns. I just feel like Cassian might be the GOAT.
Yeah. It's
That's
super
so
sweet.
Cool.
Very thoughtful.
So
and I loved
thoughtful.
it too because, like, I think I put this in his section, but I'm going to drop it here. Because they're just so intertwined, right? Mm-hmm. He really sees Nesta in a different way, right? She loves books. She does. She really, really loves books. But music does something to her soul. And he recognizes that. Everybody got her books and they got her the book credits for Solstice and whatever. And she loves that, right? That's fantastic. But knowing the trouble that he also went through to make this happen for her, he truly sees what brings her joy, and that's music. And he's just a good man. He knows her well.
He is such a good man. Male. That gets me every time.
Whatever. I don't even correct myself anymore.
Oh, well, we do have a couple more pieces here about, her and him and their intertwined, I don't know, self-deprecation. Cassian's, is yelling and talking about him not wanting her to dance with Eris, and he goes, because I was fucking jealous. You should be with a princeling, not a lowborn like me. And, I love that Nesta's like, Eris is a piece of shit. And I deserve him, because so am I. Wow, they both think so highly of themselves. They think highly of each other, but not of themselves.
But not of themselves, yeah.
Yes. And, you already mentioned these next two about, her father and her feeling like her denying Cassian was her punishment. I mean, self-punishment. It's so sad. But I think that the best part of all of this for me is we go through all of this pain and sadness, and where do we go? If she did fall, this is her sitting in Emerie's house thinking about her apologizing. If she did fall, he would be waiting there with his hand outstretched. She didn't deserve it, but she would endeavor to be worthy of him. So even though she thinks so low of herself, she believes that with him she can be better.
And she says too in that moment, like, I will find the words. I will find the way to tell Cassian what he needs to hear, to accept the bond, to say, I love you, all the things we want to hear. She's willing to do it for him because of him. I want to wrap up Cassian and Nesta, and I think just Nesta in general, with the 3 words that Cassian gives her. It says, love is complicated. And what a fitting line, I think, for Nesta to hear. Because yes, it was about her and her father when they're at the cottage and she's kind of giving him the lowdown on all of that. But it's also for Cassian and Nesta. It's also for Feyre, for Amren, for Elaine, for everyone she loves, even if she can't admit it to them. Love is complicated.
Very true. Well, speaking of our wise man who sometimes doesn't know how to say things, but apparently says things really well too.
Depends on the situation.
Yeah. Poor Cassian clearly doesn't want to see Nesta and Eris together, and he's got all this envy and frustration. It's so clear. I mean, but listen, who wouldn't hate Eris? He says, go sit at your master's feet, dog.
Oh,
Eris. I'm trying so hard to give this man some rope, some leeway.
I
He's like
know.
really making it hard, okay?
I know. I know. Also, speaking of Cassian and Eris, Rhys telling them all, like, Nesta should seduce Eris, and then Cassian's pissed. Like, Rhys, you you can't tell there's a bond there. You don't know that's there. Doesn't that seem a little
Oh, he
dangerous?
knows.
That made
We
me a
know
little
he
nervous.
knows.
But I was like, I get that we're all playing a game, but that makes me a little nervous. I was like, you know how you acted and how you feel about Feyre interacting with any other male. That's maybe he wants Cassian to rip out Eris's throat. Maybe he's like, you know what? I'm actually kind of over it. How about we just be done with him?
We know he knows.
Exactly.
There's
he
no
knows.
way he doesn't know.
Everybody knows. Let's be honest. They just haven't admitted it. It's like Feyre and Rhys. Everybody knew.
Yeah, pretty much. Now that being said, oh my gosh, sorry. Going to this next piece with Cassian, I'm gonna skip over right here. This male would battle down enemies and Faith's death, but he was nervous. To do what?
To give his gift.
It's so sweet.
So sweet.
And then, he says he's holding back from giving it in person because he's like really worried that he's going to break her heart again, which like she kind of tries to, but she fails. Yay! And then we finally get to know what the book, and I gave it away. Whatever, y'all read this, okay? We finally get to know what the gift was from last year. The smallest, oldest book ever in existence.
Which I'm also like, we just threw that into the goddamn Sidra and it's gone.
I know. He's clear. He's like, damn it, shouldn't have done that.
Can we find that? Can
somebody go down there?
Right? I was like, that feels like something we shouldn't have done, but it's okay.
Yeah, that part.
We were upset.
Now he is getting better at his courtier skills. Proud of him. Love that. And then I put Cassian having to know at this end that his mate is in danger and not being able to do anything about it. And now he truly will know how Rhys felt.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. One little thing I wanted to note about Cassian is, and I thought this was a huge moment, when he rips off one of his siphons and throws it to Nesta when she's running out of the prison. And he gives it to her to use as like light to see. But I'm like, wow, that's kind of a big deal, right? To like take off one of your siphons. You wear those constantly. They are always attached to your body. And you chose to take one of them off. Simply for so who else? Could see. But that's, I'm like, golly, if that isn't some sort of declaration of something, he's willing to die for, he's willing to give her one of his siphons.
Yes, it feels equivalent to giving away your most precious prized dagger. Sorry, I know we're not talking about them yet, but it does feel similar.
Or like, Feyre and Rhys with the ring, like, duh, we knew what the ring was going to be for. But, these are big deal things to them.
Yeah, for sure. Faux show. Okay. Any other things we want to note about our dear Cassian?
I mean, he and Nesta are so intertwined. It's like we do separate them, but we don't. We've been talking about him. I think it's time we move on to some of our other characters. I do want to move on.
I only want to mention one more thing about him then. I cannot imagine how painful it must have been for Cassian to really know, like, she's my mate. And then have to watch somebody that calls him a dog propose to her.
Mm. They're
And
lucky he did
he
not
held
walk
his shit
over.
together.
Yeah. Yeah.
He has a lot of self-control.
I'm so glad that this moment, like the ball under the hewn city, that this happened when it did, because if it had happened earlier in Nesta's healing journey, um I would have been very nervous for where that seduction may have led, regardless of
To her
feelings.
bedroom.
It still might have led to the bedroom. I'm so grateful that this happened in the point that it did, because
Yeah.
otherwise
Oh my gosh.
I would have felt way more nervous about all of this than I did at this point in
Yeah.
the book.
Yeah.
But I
Same,
feel
same.
for Cassian too. And I'm also trying to give Eris, the benefit of the doubt, but I'm also like, if Moore and Cassian just want to be done with it, then he's not
Yeah.
really doing well for himself right now.
Very true. Which leads me to believe that perhaps we should just skip over to Eris.
I'm here for it.
He's described as Eris and swagger, or this is maybe me. This is me saying Eris and swagger feel synonymous.
Mm.
Like, he just is. And usually when it comes to Rhysand, we'd be like, that's hot. Maybe Eris is in fact hot, but he's also a dick. And that takes your 10 down to a significantly less number, you know?
Yeah.
We know how often Eris brings up the truth. Don't
Ugh.
believe the lies they tell you about me. She knows the truth, but has never revealed it because she's afraid of it. They believe the version of events that's easier to swallow. Rhysand tends to be blind where it comes to those he loves. And I was like, somebody tell me what's happening.
I feel like you need to speak up then, Eris. Give us their dirty deets if you say there's more to the story. You keep dropping these little hints, but you aren't willing to tell us. Like, you can't, I don't know. It makes it really hard because it's like you keep saying that,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
but like you're also
Yep.
not giving us more.
Now, speaking of more,
Mm.
this is where I'm going to drop this thought. I mentioned it briefly in our world building. Just throwing this out there. It could mean nothing, y'all. You know who's got a real bloody scene that is cloaked in deception? More. We don't know the color of her blood.
Yeah.
I'm curious. You've got nails through your abdomen. Your iron is the iron of it's not is affecting you. Maybe, perhaps that's why. And why don't we know the color of your blood? I want to know. Is it black? Is it red? Is it green? Is it blue? I don't know. Is it pink? I just want to know.
If anybody would have pink blood, it would be more.
Why not?
More would just.
But I'm
pink
just
sparkles.
I'm genuinely curious because there's so much wrapped up in deception about this, and she's got a house she ain't gonna tell nobody about.
Mm.
Eris is reminding us 3 books later that we don't know everything. So I'm curious. But yes,
the dirty deeds.
Eris. Yep.
Smitten little Eris too. My God, that proposal right then and there. I'll give you whatever you want. I'll exchange you, anything that you want for her as my bride. And of course, I mean, I think he's both smitten and he sees the power that Nesta may wield.
Power.
He's trying to play the game as well, but I can imagine that he would not be sad to have her in his bed if she had agreed to be his bride.
I'm curious, do you think that if it wasn't Cassian that they would have been a good match?
Like I don't know that there's enough. I don't know that there's enough information. I mean, hell, maybe this is a bold choice, but like, again, depending on the kind of book that Sarah J. Maas wanted to write for us, I feel like Lanthus would have been a better match for Nesta than Eris, but I don't know enough about him, and I don't have any love or want to know enough about him right now. So no, I don't think that I would have wanted them.
Those two, and I'm like, why?
So, and again, I had seen that on the interwebs, that people were shipping that, and that made me nervous. I was like, okay, so when is that? When am I going to feel that? When am I going to see where people are picking up on that? I don't. I do think he was smitten in that moment.
Yeah.
But she's not. So I don't know. I don't see them to, like, literally, I think that there would be more seduction with Lanthus than there was with Eris. So no, I don't. Sorry, y'all. I don't see that one.
I don't see it. No.
Yeah. No. And again, maybe it would be different.
Love, I just don't see it. He does not see her. He only sees her power.
No. Yeah. And what it will bring him, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I'm gonna hip, hop, skip, jump
to our other redhead.
To Gwyn.
We love Gwyn.
Okay, but like, sad note, because she tells us about her sister Katrin, and they were fraternal twins. She had onyx black hair and fair skin, very polar opposite of Gwyn. And they were the ones who had that tradition of making wishing bracelets together. We don't really get much else other than Katrin didn't make it.
Yeah, I'm curious if that story will come. If that had to do with the raid on Sangerva, if that was a wholly different time. Little nuggets, but I really appreciate, again, and I mentioned it earlier, Gwyn not shying away from Nesta's past and then giving us a little bit more insight into her own too, and into her fears. I understand what it is to fail the people who mean the most, to live in fear of people finding out. I dread you and Emerie learning my history. I know that once you do, you'll never look at me the same again. She also has a story to share, and I kind of hope that she does. I mean, mostly because I want to know, but I also think it would be really powerful within their friendship too. But then with her writing about Nesta and the training that the three of them are doing with the rebirth of the Valkyries, like, what a cool thing for Gwyn to think of. What a gift to give her friends, to write them down. And then, my God, the gift that she gives Nesta of leaving the library, of finally getting out of the House of Wind Mountain. Wow. What a moment for her.
Big moment. And they all go to Emerie's house. Something I did note about Emerie specifically, this is an interesting little moment. It's quick. Emerie blushes at the sight of Mor. Also, they both have father trauma. But blushing at the sight of Mor. I mean, I know Mor is beautiful, but that's not typically the reaction that is described when people meet Mor. They're usually like stunned by her beauty, but not blushing.
Yeah. Like, takes her back and she's like, wow, look how beautiful she is. And, okay.
Shipping.
I could see those two together. They've never had an interaction, but sure.
Why not? I mean, that's why I was like, they're both independent women, warriors, badasses with daddy issues. Sounds perfect.
Lots they could connect on. Lots that could bring them together.
Both have been brutally hurt by their own fathers. Nails in the stomach, clipping of wings. They definitely should have a conversation.
And we know that Mor loves her in Illyrian. So here's the perfect Illyrian for her, maybe.
Specifically a female, so.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yes.
All right. Speaking of females, should we move on to the next one, Miss Elaine?
Yes, Elaine. Okay, Elaine in black was ridiculous. I love that line. As they're
Yeah.
going to the Hewn City ball. Um, but I do enjoy her coming to her own defense of saying, I'm a part of this court and I will do what it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, this like mention of her in black being ridiculous. It's more confirmation for us that Elaine isn't necessarily meant for the night court, maybe, because Cassian even says that the black drains her of her color. No matter how
Mhm.
much she claimed to be part of this court, it sucked the life from her.
I
And
know.
and then that makes me a little nervous for the potential love story of her and Asriel, because Elaine would then maybe have to change who she is, or Asriel would have to change who he is to fit
Or maybe Azrael
in
just
their
needs a little light in
worlds.
his life,
Maybe.
you
I
know?
don't know. The mentions of her not really fitting with the night court um also then makes me go, okay, so where's she fit? It's kind of like Nesta. Where's her place? If it's not within the
Yeah.
night court wholly, where do they go? Where do they call home?
Yeah.
We shall see. Speaking of Elaine and Asriel, Nesta even mentions, as Feyre has done in the past, how there's sort of these moments between Elaine and Asriel. At solstice, it's like this charge goes through them. Elaine's breath catches. So whether they're made for each other or not, whether they were selected by the cauldron for each other or not, there's a little something happening there.
For sure. For
And
sure.
then we've talked a lot about Elaine over, the last handful of episodes and how she's a little bristly. And she says this line to Nesta as she's comes in for solstice. Did Feyre pay you like last year? And I went, ooh, she has zero faith in Nesta.
I
And then
truly
like
say it.
laughs, you know, like laughs when Nesta's like, well, fuck you. Which is
Oh,
kind of
fuck you, Elaine.
a nice little moment. But I'm like, God, Elaine, you're kind of a bitch right now. Like, holy shit. Feyre at least sees that Nesta's going through something, but I just couldn't believe that she point blank was like, so did Feyre pay you to be here like she did last year? I was like, oh my God. Okay, maybe give her 5 seconds to walk in the door and then suss out
Yeah.
the situation. I was like, dang. Okay.
But I love that that's actually a moment where the two of them can mend their relationship.
Yeah, in
As
oh
Ness is
fuck
like,
you,
oh, fuck
Elaine.
you. And then Ness is like, starts hysterically laughing. And she's like, wow, you've never spoken to me like that before. This is a good sign,
Yeah.
which they need. They needed. Now,
Yeah.
we've got good signs, we've got bad signs, we've got Rhysand. Rhysand is not in a good place.
Mm-mm.
Okay. I didn't write too much down about Rhysand because mostly what's happening with him is he's just suffering with the truth that Feyre is in imminent danger. And
Yeah.
there's nothing he can do. It did bother me, however, that Rhys gave Eris Nesta's dagger. I didn't like that.
Yeah. It's not really his to give, which I
Yep.
found odd. Um, but then I'm like, he is always thinking 10 steps ahead. And again, maybe he's done with Eris's bullshit. Maybe he's hoping Eris will use it and it'll kill him. I don't know. I'm hoping that there's a purpose to it, but I agree. I was kind of like, I don't know that that was like what we should have done. But also he's kind of I don't he's so not in his right mind right now either.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad that Nesta has ataraxia now, but even him like handing that to Cassian and being like, here, let's see what happens when Nesta uses this. Like, these decisions don't seem
Iggy.
like our normal level-headed Rhys,
Yeah.
because he's not our normal level-headed Rhys. And so I have to
Yeah.
hope that there's a reason for it, but I agree. I was kind of like, I don't know that that was what we should have done.
For
Yeah.
sure. Now, Feyre, couple notes about her I made. Feyre designed the river house room for Nesta exactly as Nesta would have designed it herself. And she
Mm.
makes note of that. She's like, oh, these are all the things I would have wanted. The navy blues, the serene tans and sand colors. Like, it's exactly what she wanted. Maybe your sister knows you a little better than you think she does.
Than you give her credit for.
Maybe Feyre has been working to do better by you.
Mm. Nesta just needs to give her the chance to show it. Or show it more. Like, she's showing it now that she's stayed at the House of Wind.
And then we have just a little time drop because so much time has passed, right? We know that Fae pregnancies are 10 months. Feyre has 2 months left.
Mm-hmm. Time is ticking.
Mm-hmm.
And again, back to Rhysand. That man is not in his right mind. He is.
And I think the closer we get to that time bomb, the worse he's going to get.
Oh, yeah. Because there's nothing he can do. For the man who will do everything and anything he can for the people around him, there is nothing he can currently do.
Yeah, that's a really hard truth to swallow.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else drops some, truths, some knowledge within our.
She's always got wisdom.
Episode. Miss Amren. Now, one thing she says that was, really kind of sweet. Nesta is laughing, and Amren says, "Huh, a sound I never thought I'd hear from you, girl." And this moment, Nesta goes down on one knee and lowers her head. She says, "I'm sorry. You gave me kindness and respect in your time, and I treated you like garbage. I was jealous and scared. Losing your friendship is a loss I can't endure." And Amren drops this truth. That's the key, isn't it? To know the darkness will always remain, but how you choose to face it, to handle it, that's the important part. To not let it consume. Focus on the good. It will fill you with wonder. Wise words from a 15,000-year-old being.
It's as if she's got some experience. But I am glad to see this friendship being repaired. I
am as well.
It was necessary.
Yes. Okay, now we've talked a little bit about Morrigan today, so this is going to be quite brief, but all I said is, okay, dance lessons for Nesta from Boar. Wonder what that interaction was like at first, because Mor hates Nesta, and Nesta's not quite particularly fond of Mor either. But then they decide to have some civilness and some understanding, and I like the idea of Mor becoming Valkyrie. That seems fitting to me as well. Also, Mor, no hesitation, much like she did with Feyre, takes Nesta to Emerie's. What do you need right now? I got you. No questions asked. Love Mor.
I would love to see this friendship, because it's not a friendship at all, but I would love to see this one kind of blossom. And I think maybe we're in the beginning stages of that, because even Nesta thanks her, and she says, "Thank you, Morgan," and Mor goes, "No, it's Mor. You can call me Mor. That's what everybody else calls me." And Nesta notes where were they going? Somewhere, or somebody comes into the room or something. Nesta notes the look on Mor's face at her friends, of that glow, of that light that she has, of the beauty that everybody else sees, and it kind of tightens. Maybe it's Starfall. It's some point in all of their interactions, but it makes Nesta's chest sort of tighten, because I think she wants that too. Not necessarily from Mor, but from the people around her. But I think seeing the person that Mor can be and what others see in her, I'm like, maybe that's a moment for Nesta to see that Mor's not this terrible person, that they have a lot more in common than she would like to admit. And I often think that some of the people that Nesta pushes against so hard are the people that she's most alike, the people that she has the most connection to. And she's worked through that and opened up with a lot of those people in this book. Her and Moore haven't had an opportunity to really connect because she's been in Valahan so much, but maybe these little moments are little glimmers into a potential relationship between the two of them too.
Absolutely. Well, I think you and I have definitely touched on a lot of things that aren't clicking for us yet, but I have just a couple to mention here. Okay, so the harp speaks to Nesta in a way that the Book of Breathings kind of speaks to Feyre and Amren. And it makes me wonder if the made items are imbued with the maker's voice. Like, whose voice is this that these items are speaking in?
Right.
So I'm just curious. That was something I wondered. And that ominous red star. That's just dropped in there like, boop, boop.
Right. Well, and we've had so much bad happen in our world, and this is the very first time we've had an ominous red star shoot across the sky. That's concerning. There's war on the horizon. We just got dropped into the blood right. Feyre's potentially dying. There's a lot going on.
The only thing I want to make note of that red star is for us to remember when it happened. Which was like winterish.
Okay.
Right? Like winterish, springish.
Yeah.
It was like I think it's like somewhere in there.
That middle range. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always have lots of questions. We say that no magic can pierce the prison's wards, but can Nesta's? Because I feel like she kind of did with her mind scrying already.
She took down Amren's wards around her house.
She did. She pushed through that rock gate thing to where the harp was. So I'm like, can she take down those wards too? Just out of curiosity. Seems that she can. Cassian didn't know that there was anything in the prison aside from cells. So who did put the harp there? And what else could potentially be in the prison, maybe? The markings in the chamber, the sort of markings and runes that are holding the harp, ancient magic. We kind of questioned that already. Like, what do those things mean? Where are they from? I wondered, now I don't think that there's anything else out, but I was like, what else is out of its cage? Or maybe what was smarter than Lanthus not to open its door? Because I knew that when the harp broke the wards around it, that it was opening more than just that. Also, we used the harp in the vicinity of other doors. So I was just like, could we potentially let anything else out? Maybe not. We have questioned what Moore is. So I said this earlier. Is she maybe a descent of the Daglin? Is that where their sort of ancient line comes from? We know that the Daglin created the Fae, but Fae and humans have intermingled and had offspring. Could the Daglin and Fae have potentially done the same thing? Or Fae and something else?
Yeah, interesting.
In the vision that Lanthus creates for Nesta of ruling the world, she sees that additional item that's sort of cloaked. It's a age-worn bone, she thinks. And I said, a Daglin bone, something to resurrect them like Jurian was? Would that create the world again that Lanthus wanted with Nesta? The gleam of an age-worn bone just for some reason really had me thinking of Jurian, but curious what that is.
Is she saying it's the shape of a bone, or is she saying it's as shiny as a worn bone?
I don't know.
She's saying it's got a gleam.
Yeah, I took that as a bone, but it seemed like bone was an interesting word to use. Dying breath, hill I will die on. Lanthus, a terrible death god monster, whatever he is, asks Nesta, what are you? And I said, how many times must we hear this without an answer? We know she's made by the cauldron, but I feel like it means more than that. Especially when he asks, what's beneath your skin? What is that? Whose silver fire? Whose silver flames are those? I'm like, I just feel like, and then she says that it felt like something bigger was calling her to the harp. What is she? What is behind Nesta?
So many thoughts and questions that we will have to await some writing to reveal.
I'm afraid so.
But alas, that brings us to the closeout of our episode where we go through our heroine's journey. I'll begin today with, quote, "She may not have saved the world and led armies, but she had made this small initial step, and she was proud." That line speaks to the steadiness that Nesta must have, and mentally in a world where chaos is constantly swirling and can make you feel small. It also shows that when we are focused on our own path, that even, quote, small steps can hold great meaning. In this magical world, and even in our own, females are often made to feel powerless. The systems in place, the expectations put upon us, and even how our own safety can feel conditional. They're all reasons why her declaration that she, quote, would not be mastered by anything again. She was the master of herself. If that quote feels so powerful, it is a moment of ownership and an inner choice to stay grounded in who we are and who we choose to become. Her thoughts, her reactions, and her life's directions are hers to claim. So I challenge us all to take even small moments to choose ourselves, to reclaim our paths, and to be proud of who we are and the work we're putting in to become.
I feel like you could just use this little heroine's journey for all of your pageant girlies.
Yeah, it's a good
All
one.
right. Here's mine this week. Quote, "That was all she supposed she could do. Just keep going, one day, one breath at a time." It's the little moments, the little steps that keep us moving forward. That's what Nesta reminds herself of. One breath, one day at a time, even when it's hard, even when it feels like nothing is changing, showing up for yourself again and again is its own kind of strength. Nesta mentions that some days even her mind-stilling exercises can be hard, but she continues to do them every morning and every night, giving herself a grounding routine, finding peace regardless of the outside pressures, finding joy. And then Amren notes that change in Nesta. We heard this quote earlier. That's the key, isn't it? To know darkness will always remain, but how you choose to face it, handle it, that's the important part. To not let it consume you, to focus upon the good, the things that fill you with wonder. The struggle with that darkness is worth it, just to see things. And this is what life after hard times looks like, whether you're a death god incarnate or just two women recording a podcast together, choosing every single day to keep going, to keep searching for what fills your own cup.
I know you want to keep going. I know you want to turn the page, but hey, we got to close the book on this one.
But hey, every epic needs a cliffhanger, right? And we're definitely on one. So let's savor the suspense.
Remember to like, share, subscribe, and write a review.
And before you remove your bookmark to prepare for next week, we will be wrapping up A Court of Silver Flames. Holy shit. We'll be wrapping up with chapters 64 through the end.
Remember that whether you're conquering your own kingdom or just cozying up with a good book, you are the main character of your own epic tale.
Okay, queens, for real now, put that book down, hold your crown high, and we will catch you on the next one.